Hello everybody, Kenji Tiger here. Welcome back to Space Engineers. We are continuing on in our little building project here. So this is the beginnings of a drone miner. I'm literally staring down at the top because I'm kind of thinking about things as I build here. Obviously, if you have a design plan, you don't have to do this. So, kind of dreaming about how you're going to do things. So, babble here a little bit as I'm known to do. Propulsion. Right now I have 8 reverse thrusters, which is to say I have 8 thrusters that are pushing backwards on this craft. So if we use 8 as a convention, then I need at least 8 in every direction. Okay? So the only argument to that philosophy is that if I'm drilling on a planet, which is to say in an atmosphere, then the 8 become my lift, okay, which is to say they're what is holding me off the ground. Where am I going to put propulsion? Now, I babbled a bit in the other one, the other episode, about what am I going to do with all these various gaps and holes. So we put batteries in here, which I really do like having batteries on a ship. Running out of electricity while you're in the middle of something is really a pain for a lot of reasons. If you are operating this remotely, which because this is a drone you will be, then it is a bit awkward from the perspective of your antenna goes out. You have absolutely no idea where this thing is coming from a distance because you no longer have a beacon. No longer have a beacon. You no longer have a marker on your HUD to tell you where this thing is. So, little problems that go in with running out of energy. Now, one of the things that I was bound and determined to do between episodes here, which I did not do, was so we're doing fine on the reactors. Not any problems there. But one of the things we'll notice is our oxygen generator is completely out. All right. So, 10,000 liters. So here's let me fill up. And sorry again for those of you wearing headsets. I know this is really loud. Space Engineers doesn't have too many sounds, but the sounds it does have are somewhat obnoxious sometimes. So, how much is 10,000 liters? So the oxygen generator can hold 10,000 liters of ice. So I just put this in. Alright, so I have 53 liters currently. So if I do 35, whoops, how about 35,000, then I'm a bit over. So let's do the 5,000 back. Alright, so we'll hold 30,000 there. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to wander back over here. We're going to get into inventory because that's where I intended to go. We're going to fill this whole thing up. So it's not going to take this. It's going to take 27K. We know it's going to need more than that, so I'm going to leave that in my inventory and we'll come back. So let's look at our hydrogen tank. Small hydrogen tank. So it's a little bit over 50%, 56%, 57% now. It's going up pretty fast, which is nice. Even given the fact that these are all burning at idle. Alright. We were talking about thrust in this particular situation, and we need thrust in 6 directions: up, down, left, right, front, and back, right? So in this case, we have some of the mechanism built in already just by virtue of what we've done. We put it on the front, don't have anything in the back, and don't have anything on the sides. But conveniently, this H pattern that we built to hook our drills onto is great side thruster connection points. So there's 5 on each side. We could actually put a 6th and a 7th by putting 1 on the top and the bottom. I'm not going to do that. I'm only going to do 5. And the reason I'm only going to do 5 is 5 may be sufficient for maneuverability. So we're going to go ahead and put, I think that's in number 4, and one of the other things that we have to do, because I pulled in, so this was hydrogen thrusters. I thought I was pulling in hydrogen thrusters, and in fact I did not. I pulled in Kenti thrusters, which I didn't want. And that may actually be because I took it from another page. These are Kenti thrusters, so maybe I just screwed up, which is entirely possible. So 3 is just hydrogen thrusters. So having done that, let us go back over here to our number 3. We're going to have to grind down all of this. And this one, Alright, so I'm a little confused now because, alright, so some of those are Kenti thrusters, and some are regular hydrogen thrusters. So the trick is figuring out which one is what. That's a hydrogen thruster, and that is a Kenti thruster. Darn it. Alright, so that's a Kenti thruster. That's a hydrogen thruster. That's a hydrogen thruster. That's a Kenti thruster. Alright, so let's weld back up what we damaged, which is that piece there. See if we got any other issues anywhere. Alright, and then we'll go back over to slot number 4. We'll select hopefully the correct thrusters this time. And back to our welder and see. Indeed. Alright. Looks like just hydrogen thrusters. Alright, so that was my goof. 0 to cancel what I've got in my hand, and now we indeed have just hydrogen, so vanilla thrusters, which is what I intended. Alright, now that I have unmessed that up, we're going to call this thrusters. Now, if I'm building a multi-thruster kind of a thing, normally I would say thrusters ion or thrusters Atmos, something so I could differentiate between the two. In this case, because this whole thing is going to be hydrogen thrusters, I'm just going to call them thrusters. Okay, so show block and terminal. So here's what we've done. We have a connector, which is the connector in the back. We have that front camera, and in the case of adding other cameras, which we absolutely can do, I'm going to call this forward view. Okay, and then all of our groups here. All right, so now that we're on to the hydrogen, the thruster gig, back to number 4, select 3. I'm going to turn those sideways, and I'm going to put 5. Oh, okay, I'm out. So grab more materials here. Unfortunately, that's going to change to a big one. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, even though I know that's going to be plenty too much inventory. Alright, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Normally I build the port side first just because I'm a Navy guy, so spin those around. 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright, so what have we accomplished here? We have now got thrust on both sides and the front. Okay, so number 3, and number 9, which will bring my welder back up. And we will weld all of these guys up. So it's a good sign. They ignite right off the bat. Alright. So now we have our side, our port and starboard thrusting, which is a good thing. Now, something I was thinking about is how do I carry on top and bottom? So here's what I was thinking. Small conveyors. Now, why it won't let me put a conveyor in there? Huh. Oh, because I don't have interior plates. Okay, I was wondering why that was red. That's like, I know that fits there. Alright. Try again. Okay, so this will be on the top and the bottom. It's going to be down one square and connect in this case the drill onto this front cross pattern, and we're going to put thrusters in there. Okay, and we'll do the same thing down here. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, now if we think about things in terms of convention, weld this up, then we just put 5 on the side, right? So we want at least 5 because these are maneuvering, right? And where are we going to do that? So let me put these in. So 0 for cancel, 4 for the toolbar where I have everything, 3 because I'm selecting that hydrogen thruster, and 1, 2, 3, and to the this may or may not be the bottom. We don't really have a bottom and a top yet. All right. So 0 to cancel, 3 to get onto that toolbar, 9 to select my welder, and then we are welding these guys up. And if everything goes well, they will ignite, which they did. All right. Now, let's consider for a moment. Okay. The drills, which are 3 by 3, and I have 2 of them side by side separated by 1. Why did we do that? Well, we got some thrusters in there, we got the camera in there, which is really the important part, and we got some spotlights in there. So our front actually I think is pretty well designed. We will go about a half a block to a full block, a 3/4 of a block or so on each side of the drill. So we should technically be able to run flush with the side of this without bumping anything. So having this as a 7 by 7 grid was good. Those 4 drills are going to clear out that space, that 1 block in between, so we shouldn't have any issues of running into any remains. Shouldn't being the key word here. So this 7 by 7 grid here with the tank on the back being 5 by 5, we can see that this is actually bigger than the tank, which is good. So here's what else we're going to do. We're going to put conveyors, and we have this port on the back, and here's what we are going to do. We're going to start out with 4, and we're going to connect them. So 1, 2, 1, 2. If we consider the corner is part of both sides. And 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. All right. So shift to our welder. Weld up all this stuff. Need interior plates. So let's go back over here, and so we need construction components. Let's go ahead and shift 2 of those. We need interior plate. Shift 2 of those. Maybe 3. And we needed motors. Right? So we'll do 3. All right. And back to weld. All right, along the bottom. All right. So we now have 5 and 5, right? So we need at least 2 back here to make everything look right. Or rather, to keep thrust symmetrical on all sides, we need at least 2 thrusters back here. So, do we get creative or do we just use them all? I think we're just going to be creative. All right, so 0 to cancel out, 4 to go to my number 4 toolbar, 3 to select the hydrogen thruster. I'm not close enough. All right, I'm going to put 1 there and 1 there. I've already got these on the side, so I'm not going to do that there, but I am going to put them on the bottom. So this means we have, right now, symmetrical thrust in all directions. Okay. 0 to deselect that, number 4, sorry, number 3, to get to that toolbar, and let's weld these guys up. I wanted to see that one light off, but maybe... There it is. Okay, so that one just... There we go. Alright, so 5 now in 5 directions, so we have at least 5. Alright, so we have 8 up front. We have 5 on every side. And one of the things, I'm going to just come back here to the back here so you can see we are maintaining this 7 block philosophy. Okay, so we are not exceeding that 7 blocks with these in the back. They're perfectly lined up with the edge of the drill, with the edge of the batteries. All right, so what are we going to do about our aft thrust? Well, we've got a couple choices. Because we have all of these conveyors back here, I'm just going to say I'm going to put a really big ring of thrusters back here because we can. So theoretically, we should be able to scream across the solar system fairly quickly, get to where we need to go, because we have a lot of thrust back here. All right, number 3, number 9, and we'll start welding. I need steel plate. Grab some steel plate. In fact, 0, we're going to go over to 4. Sorry, control 4. Out of the way. Control 4, get on the right one. 3, and then we're going to come over here. We're going to get close enough to trigger the reticle, and then pull in all kinds of... I apologize for the escape thing. The reason I do that is normally when I'm, obviously when you're queued in, then escape gets you out of that inventory screen, and because I'm not actually in the inventory screen, because I'm using the easy inventory, right? It's creature of habit thing. All right. Continue to weld up all of these. All right, so we have now 16. 5 and 5 make 10, plus 3 on each side is 6 more. So 16 forward thrusters. We have 5 on every side, so up, down, side, and side. So because we're in space, here's another trivia, space trivia. There is no up or down in space. Okay, why is that? Because everything is relative to something. In space, because it's such a huge space, you don't really have a relative to anything. It's just space. So, in this case, again, I'm a Navy guy, so port, starboard, dorsal, and ventral. Okay? So, our ship becomes the port side, the starboard side, the ventral side, the underside, and the dorsal side, the over, the tongue. Okay? So, really wanted to get silly, the bow and the stern. All right, so we've got 6 reactors there, and I really do not know if those 6 reactors are enough to do anything. I have no idea. So, here's one of the things that has happened. So this conveyor here, right in the center, used to connect the star onto things. This star was completely independent because where it is in relation to the drills. Now, because I added those 2 rows of conveyors on the top and the bottom, they are not connected in. So I could not remove this before. This was what it was. Now I can either leave it or remove it depending on what I want to do. Now, one of the things we have to keep in mind is that the center, so the philosophy here that we're getting into is my remote control. Where does my remote control need to be? Now, I like a lot of redundancy. So in this case, my remote control unit needs to be somewhere where where it makes sense. Okay, a remote control needs to be obviously facing the correct direction, but also it doesn't matter a whole lot where it is as far as which direction it's facing. Now, keeping in mind, you can do GPS points with a remote control no differently than on your Space Engineer. But when you are relative to your remote control, the GPS coordinate is going to be based on where that remote control is located. Where does this come into play? If you are autopiloting, this connector back here becomes important. So if you are plotting GPS points because you want to auto dock this craft, then your GPS coordinate for that auto dock maneuver is going to be relative to the remote control. Okay, so where that remote control is on this vessel becomes important because now you're relative to something, and that something in a remote controlled craft happens to be the remote control. Because that is your autopilot, now everything is relative to that. So I want to place this block where it actually makes sense. So I can either do that in here, or I can put it somewhere else. This is a lot of empty space, so I'm going to go ahead and put it here. So back to my number 4 toolbar because I had stuff there. I want that block right there, okay? But I'm going to look at it because this is not facing the correct way, okay? This is actually facing the correct way. So you got the big white thing on the front, hard to see, so let me change, okay? So the triangle is up, okay, and then that big green thing, or in this case it's white right now, but that's facing forward, okay. A little hard to see what else it looks like, so I'm going to move it out here and move. Well, I can't move myself over here, so let's get out in the front, and we'll bring up the. I just did the P because it actually changes it to solid. So those the little green stripy things that are on the side, if you will, where the little sloped portion is. Okay, so this is facing forward relative to this craft. So it's something you want to know because your controls, WASD, become relative to the direction that this thing is in. If you have it turned around backwards, you're flying backwards. Okay, so completely shifts everything around. So placing your remote control block in correctly is pretty important. Okay, so now that we know we have it facing the direction we want, we're going to put it where we want, which is right there. Okay. Now here's one of the challenges is I'm going to have to fit it in there, which is to say I'm going to have to get in there far enough that that I can reach. Okay, my antenna is going to go right there. Why? Because. All right, shift back over to 3, number 9, and let's see if I can actually, yes I can, reach that. Okay, I need computers, and I'm having trouble getting in there. Alright, so what I may actually need to do is grind that one out. So I can weld that. So back to the welder. I need some tubes. Alright, so we'll 0 that, get back onto number 4. And we're going to do two things here. We're going to come over and so number 1 and right click, back out, select number 2 and right click. 0. Back to bar number 3 and 9 for my welder. Finish welding that, so that's 100%, and get into that, finish that, welding 100%, over to number 1. Now I think I'm going to go ahead and put a conveyor there, and the reason why is a conveyor is a little more solid than a tube. Because that's got the remote control and the antenna, we'll just make that a little stronger there. Alright, what else can we put in here? It's just kind of open blank space. There's not really anything else that we absolutely need to put, except gyros. So we do need mounting points for gyros. Now, what I was considering is putting gyros on the sides here, or I can put them in a slightly more protected area, which would be right in here. Now, how many gyros do you need? It's really a personal preference. So let's go to number 4. I've got my gyros in here. At least I should have my gyros. How many gyros do you need? So I am going to put in 4, and then we're going to test, because I could actually put 8 of them in here. 1, 2. So there's my 4. I'm not sure if they're all facing the correct direction or not. Let me go ahead and get parts for these. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I know I pulled in way too much material given the these are small ship. back to bar number 3, number 9 for my welder. And so I need to get out here, and there's that one. Alright, so there's gyro, gyro, and gyro, gyro. There's that one, and that one. Alright. So right now we have technically everything we need to make this thing do what it does. So I'm going to back off just a little bit. I'm going to zero me out, and I'm going to go to my little thing up here, and this is right now not named, but as you can see here, this is my ship. So we're now controlling this remotely. Gyros. Save off the toolbar. We already have a thing for thrusters, but we have all of our thrusters in here now. So we're going to add those to the thrusters. So that was highlight all of them using shift. You can also use control, and then I used control and left click on thrusters. So I selected that last because I want to select my group last. So then I do a save, which now is going to add all of those thrusters into my group as it is. I'm going to toggle this, which is to say I'm going to click it, turn it on, click it, turn it off. Okay, so that just removed all those new ones that I just added. And terminal is the same thing. Toggle it on, toggle it off, and you see they all disappeared. Remote control, what are we going to do with this? Well, because you can have a remote control on everything, we're going to name this specifically drone miner. Excuse me. Alright, so now we know that this is the drone miner we're talking about. This button, control, okay, because I want to test this. We're in testing mode now. Alright, so I'm in test mode. You can see I've got a blank toolbar in front of me. You can see I have in the bottom left corner there, I have 100% hydrogen. I am using no electricity according to this. I don't know if that's true. So let's play WASDF or WASD and see if I have directional control. So here's a W, that's forward. S of course is backwards. D was my port side. A is my right side, my starboard side. If I go up is a space, right, or F. C is a down. Okay, so I have full directional control, which is to say independent axes control. Mouse controls my gyro, right? So you can see I've got almost too much on the gyros. So 4 is plenty, if not too much. So what I'm going to do is go back into control, which in this case is going to be a K. Okay, so I'm still in control of the ship. While I'm thinking about it, I'm going to do info. I'm going to change the name of this to KTC. That's Kenti Tiger Clan, KTC. So everything I build is a KTC. Drone miner. Okay. I've got several drone miners, but we'll just call this drone miner for now. Control panel. We're going to select gyros, and we're going to put the gyros at about 50% power, so 0.5. Okay, 50%. The reason I'm not deleting them is that maybe there's a time when you need that extra gyro force. And let's consider for a moment that this is empty. Okay, the only thing I have in here is ice and uranium. Okay, so there may be a time when I'm going to need more gyro control. So I put it down to 50 now, but I may need that when this is fully loaded. So things to consider. So right now it's at 50%. So let's do another mouse test. Okay, a little more control. Okay, I like it. So I think 50% is about right. Now let's go full thrust. I'm using 1% of my control here. Okay, so power is good. Let's go ahead and do G, which will bring up my toolbar. Why is that important? So we have groups, drills. I gotta have my drills. So toggle block on and off. Floodlights. We want our floodlights. Toggle block on and off. Gyro control. I'm going to put it on number 7, and I'll tell you why here in a bit. Decrease power. Gyros. Increase power. Okay. And batteries recharge. Okay. So right now they were fully charged. I'm going to go ahead and select that one. So number 9. The reason why I want to do that is I want to see what my power does. I want to make sure that those 6 reactors are enough to power this thing. Okay, so it's still showing as 1. So I guess that's a good thing. I'm going to turn my drills on. So there's a little more power. I'm going to turn my spotlights on. There's a little more power. Spotlights off, drills off. So it does not look like I have any power problems at all, which is actually kind of nice. All right. So gee, what else do we need in here? All blocks. All right. So camera. Okay, you have to have your camera. This is a remote controlled device. So having a camera in here. Make sure I got the right one there. Camera view. Okay. So escape. And number 3. There's my camera. Okay. So the nice thing about this is the camera's far enough forward that the drills are not in the way. You have a full view of what you're doing. Okay. The downside to this is, yeah, you have your reticle, but you can't see what the drills are doing. So it could be good and bad. So can't even see them going. Turn the spotlights on, so you can see there's that kind of glare from the spotlights, so which is not convenient, but it's just the reality of spotlights, unfortunately. So thankfully I got those out a little bit, so we're rotating, at least on the axes, so now you can see that we're actually putting something in here that we can see. So the good news is, here is I'm now full directional control, forward, backwards, left and right movement, up, down. Okay, so I have full control over this by remote control with access to my toolbar. T gets me back to, unfortunately dumps me all the way out. So let's consider some of the other things, or do we need any other things upon this particular craft? Now, I say cameras are important. Why are cameras important? Because cameras are always going to let you see what you otherwise would not be able to see. And again, keeping in mind, this is a remote controlled device. Okay, so we just have the one camera. So forward. What I have to do back here is figure out what are we doing aft. Okay, so I could either have a camera on the top here or on the bottom. These are the only surfaces I have to work with because I use them all. So let's do number 6. We will put it there. You can see by the text on the camera, it's upside down. So I'm going to put it right there. Okay. So my convention is forward, aft, port, and starboard cameras. Now the question is, where do you put this camera? In my case, I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to put it right here. I'm going to spin it over so it's right side up. So it's a little bit protected where it is. So there's my port side and my starboard side. Turn the camera over again. And then I need up and down. Okay. Now I want to protect the camera So what I'm going to do is put it here. So the reason I put it here is because I want it a little bit protected. But how do you place the cameras? Now, I place things relative to turn on our imagination unit for just a second and imagine that I have a cockpit here. So to the right of the screen is forward, to the left is aft, right? So up, I'm on the up side, I'm on the dorsal side of the unit right now, relative to what I just created. So I call this up, but it can just as easily be down. So I picked this as up. It was completely arbitrary. You could reverse everything and call the batteries port and starboard. Okay, I just called them up and lower, upper and lower. So imagine you're sitting in a cockpit and you are looking up. So that means you lean yourself back, you tilt your head back so you are staring up. Now, relative to your face, where is forward and aft? Where are the bow and the stern? Okay, so the bow now is off your chin. The stern now is off your forehead, right? Off the top of your head. So I am going to set up my views for the camera being identical to that concept. Okay, so I look up, chin is down, forehead is aft. So in this case, forehead is aft. The top of the camera should be facing aft. The bottom of the camera, my chin, should be facing down. Right? So this is the correct position for my, in my convention, a dorsal side camera. Okay, we're going to do the same thing except on the bottom. Okay, and we change that. So that was the camera on the top. With the same philosophy, I am sitting in the cockpit, facing forward. I want to look down. To do that, I have to literally lean forward and look down. Okay? So now my head, the top of my head is pointing forward. The bottom of my view, my chin, is facing aft. So to get that viewpoint in a camera, I'm going to do the camera the same way. So the camera, the top of the camera now is facing forward. The bottom of the camera, my chin, is facing aft. So here's that one. All right, welder. And we'll see if we have the parts. Yes, we do. Okay, now why did I put these cameras on in a very specific order? Was there a reason? Answer, yes, absolutely there was. So, as you recall, Space Engineers, when it places things, puts a number on them. So in this case, I have numbers, but how do I know what camera that was? So this last one, okay, this is my starboard side camera, right? How do I know which camera that is? I have absolutely no idea. So I use the mechanism of my forward camera was the first one I placed. Forward, aft, port, starboard, dorsal, ventral. So I don't have to know what the number is. So I screwed up. I put a camera in the wrong place. So I destroy it, I grind it down, and then I put it in the correct place or the correct rotation or whatever. I oopsed it. So I got to fix that. Now what does that do to your numbers? Well, that increments your numbers. The next camera you put in, so it was camera 6. Let's just say it was the last camera. So now that new camera you put in is camera 7. Still the same order, but it's now camera 7. So by doing this conventionally, and you can use this trick on every ship that you build, I'm out of power, by placing the cameras in a specific order and always using that order, you don't actually have to know what those particular cameras, the numbers, really were. So now you see all these cameras. So my forward view, we know that camera number 2 in this case is my aft view. I always do port and then starboard. So this is my port view. My starboard view. I gotta fix that other camera, I know. Starboard view. Let's fix that before my OCD attacks. This is my dorsal, and this is my ventral. Now, for those of you who have genuine OCD, I do not have genuine OCD. Okay, so am I being humorous when I say OCD? Yes, absolutely. There is no condescension intended to those who have truly legitimate OCD. I have OCD tendencies. Okay, so I see the world in a very black and white way. That's my base. So my initial gut reaction to everything is to see the world in a very black and white way. Now the reality is that the world is anything but black. The things that drive me absolutely crazy are because the world is gray. So there are laws, there are practices, there are rules, and there are rules for a reason. When people purposefully defy these rules, it bugs the snot out of me. Now, does that mean I'm a goody two-shoes? Well, maybe. I like doing things by the rules, and it's not necessarily because I'm such a goody two-shoes. It's because I don't really want the frustration. If I have to worry constantly about, well, am I gonna get caught, then there's a factor in stress that I don't need, and I am in complete control of that. So my philosophy is I'm going to minimize my stress. For those items that are actually within my span of control, I'm going to reduce that stress factor to 0. Okay? So why do I follow the rules? Because there's less stress in it. Do the rules sometimes make absolutely no sense? Yeah. Okay? Not denying that. Do some of the laws that affect us every day, do they make sense? No. Okay? Not arguing those points. What I am arguing is that there's always a stress factor in breaking the rules, especially if you're someone like me and you know what the rules are. So that's been a problem all of my life. I always knew what the rules were. That's not to say I didn't go out of my way to break them, but I always made the choice. It was a choice. So when I was younger and got myself into trouble, it was because I made a choice. I did the evaluation, the risk management study, and I said, what am I willing to endure? Am I willing to, if it comes down to, well, you got caught, then I take responsibility and I endure whatever punishment that responsibility entails. So that was my philosophy. It was the risk management. It was, I know this is wrong, but A, I'm going to do it anyway because I accept the risk, or B, nope, too much risk, ain't going to do it. Okay, that was my philosophy in life. That's held true today. Now I'm better than half a century. So have I changed any? Yeah. You can't get older and not have perspectives change. That just comes with age, experience, maturity, however you want to look at it, but age and experience. So anyway, again, I'm not being condescending by saying the OCD things. Am I legitimately OCD? No, I'm not. I have never been diagnosed with OCD, nor do I have all the OCD tendencies. But I do absolutely and intimately understand OCD. For those of you who are wondering what this big rant was about, what the hell is OCD? What are you talking about? Obsessive compulsive disorder. What does that translate into non-OCD terms? For those of you who don't have OCD, then bless you, more power to you. Okay, you don't know what it's like. OCD, everything has to be in a particular way. Everything has to be just so. There are many different levels of OCD. I'm mild OCD, so it's not something that dare I say profoundly affects my life, although that's not entirely true. It does affect every aspect of my life, and again, I got into this rules thing. People who purposefully break the rules because the rules are inconvenient, and I understand. It's not that I'm totally oblivious to the whole philosophy. In today's world, the me, all about me attitude and philosophy, the rules are very inconvenient. Accept it, okay? But to me, because I grew up in a different era, I grew up where the golden rule still existed. Um, I try to be polite and respectful to people. That does not mean that everyone I deal with on a daily basis is respectable. Okay? But I still try and be respectful because that is the polite thing to do. That's the gentlemanly thing to do. Now, I've been accused of having grown up in the wrong era, and that may indeed be true. I do see the world in a completely different place. I was 10 going on 30. I saw the world in a very mature way, and that's due to my brain. I guess we could call it gifted, if we really want to. I have 150 IQ, not much comparing to like child prodigies or something like that, but 150 IQ is both a blessing and a curse. So I saw the world in a completely different light, a completely different perspective than most people, which has influenced my life decisions, clearly. So somebody who could play a sandbox game like this, for example, and truly enjoy it, you either have to be a bit off or truly enjoy engineering. I truly enjoy engineering. I'm an engineer through and through, by education and trade, and by